As more and more research appears on mental illness, our show tonight questions whether or not America's mental institutions are using this newly acquired information correctly when treating their patients. Tonight we focus specifically on the Oregon Mental Institute. We delve into its mysterious confines with the help of a patient at the asylum known as Chief Bromden. We look into the treatments given to these patients on a daily basis and ask the question, do they really help? The investigation into the therapeutic value of our country's mental institutions. All next on Larry King Live. Welcome to today's show. Today we are connected via satellite to the Oregon Mental Institute to talk to our first guest on the show, a man who goes by Chief Bromden. Mr. Bromden, do you hear us all right? I'm sorry, Chief, we can't quite hear you. Can you talk just a little bit louder?
It's an honor to be on this show today, Larry.
Right. So, Chief, I think it would be rather apt, given the investigations being done around various mental hospitals, to start with what day-to-day life is like around the Institute.
Alright, so life on the ward follows a pretty strict schedule. We basically wake up at 7:30 and are sent to the dining hall to eat breakfast. And then after that, we spend a lot of the day doing just chores and sweeping the hallways or cleaning the bathrooms at the hospital. Once we're done our chores, we just basically spend our time reading or playing board games. Oh yeah, and once a day there's a meeting with Dr. Spivey and the big nurse and all the other patients.
Can you please explain exactly who Dr. Spivey and the big nurse are? What do these meetings generally entail?
Alright, so Dr. Spivey is our certified medical practitioner, but to be honest, he plays barely any role in our meetings when discussing our treatments. Most of the time, he disagrees with the decisions suggested by the head of the ward, and that she's known to us as Big Nurse. She just dominates these meetings.
You say that big nurse independently controls how all of the patients are treated?
That's correct.
And what kind of treatments does she usually prescribe?
Well, there's all sorts of things she can do to you. There's things such as a shock shot, different kinds of drugs, and pretty much anything you can imagine. But most of the time, the treatments are performed right during our daily meetings.
How does she go about treating patients right then and there?
Well, she usually likes to force patients into confessing things about their past right in front of the whole ward. She says, am I to take it that there's not a man among you that has committed some kind of act that he has never admitted? And then she reaches into her logbook and says, must we go over the past history? That triggers something within the patients, and all at once they start confessing to the most absurd things.
You mentioned the shock shop? What sort of treatment takes place there?
Well, as one of my fellow patients described the electrotherapy that goes on in the shock shop, he said, those fortunate souls there are being given a free trip to the moon. No, on second thought, it isn't completely free. You pay for the service with brain cells instead of money.
Basically, what you're describing is a treatment where patients are electrocuted into a daze so they calm down. Couldn't that possibly cause brain damage?
Yes, and unfortunately, many if not all of the patients here have suffered from electrotherapy at one point.
Speaking of brain damage, is lobotomy practiced at the Oregon Mental Institution?
Of course, it's their most powerful tool, Larry. Why wouldn't they use it? If they don't like someone, they just lop off a part of their brain, and just like that, they're a vegetable.
Oh my. Well, it sounds as if the big nurse holds an enormous amount of control over her patients.
Well, that's right, she did, until Randall McMurphy came along.
Ah yes, I've heard many stories regarding this McMurphy character. Can you tell me a little bit more about him?
Sure. McMurphy joined the ward about 2 months ago, after a short stint at a prison work farm where he was serving time for statutory rape. He's a big, burly Irishman who loves to laugh and gamble with the other patients. His entire persona was odd to us because we never had heard someone truly laugh or speak their mind during our time on the ward.
Can you describe the relationship you had with McMurphy? Is it true you acted deaf for most of the time at the Institute?
It wasn't me that started acting deaf. It was people that first acting like I was too dumb to hear or see it or say anything at all. But when I first saw McMurphy, I knew there was something different about him. Something that made him strong enough to buck the system and make me big again. Make all of us big again.
Oh, I definitely say that this McMurphy is bucking the system. Actually, I spoke with the big nurse when trying to land this interview, and she offered to give me a security tape of McMurphy from the past week. Here it is for all of you at home. Would you like to respond to that, Chief?
Sure. When back in high school, I was one of the biggest players on the football team. But Big Nurse on the combine reduced me to the point where I couldn't speak for myself anymore. It took someone who had resisted the combine, like McMurphy, to show me that I could be big again, and he did it in a smart way. Never like this. Never by violence, because that's what gets you lobotomized. No, he would always just be subtly defying her from time to time to undermine her power. But it never mattered how many times he defied the Big Nurse. She will go on winning, just like the combine, because she has all the combine power behind her. She don't lose on her losses, but she wins on ours.
What exactly is the combine?
It's Big Nurse. It's society. It's how they treat people like me, mental patients. And like I said, the combine don't lose on her losses, but it always wins on ours.
And we'll end on that note, folks. Chief, thank you for joining us today.
It was my pleasure, Larry.
Well, folks, I would say that was one of the most enlightening yet saddening interviews conducted on my show to date. I really hope for the patient's sake that was not representative of America's mental hospitals. After the break, we interview Big Nurse and we will continue with the Oregon Mental Institution for the rest of the show. Stay with us.